So I think the 10-minute description would be good for this part two of attention awareness, to talk about those kinds of shaky parts sometimes, like if you're in a, place like Seattle where I am and you got to stay in the only place in town where you can rent, and you might have another person living in your room with you working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, and you got to survive. I've met baristas and bartenders and all kinds of people in Seattle who are under tough conditions with how high their rent is and how many people are around them. I was unfortunate enough to have been without housing for a little while and had to think on my feet real quick. I went to my church I was attending. I was studying some Christian teachings at a church called Bethany. Found an affordable place, thankfully at the time, for my income with Social Security disability, and wound up in a house with Christian men. They had built an extra room, and I think that's why it was affordable. It was in one of the worst parts of towns, and over on Aurora in Seattle, where there's a lot of drugs, and the only out of the ordinary and exciting part was the Donald Trump office down the street when he was getting elected. And I didn't initially support him because there was a lot of misdirection going on. I was sick to my stomach after all was said and done, because I lived in the house, and there was the same stuff occurring where the roommates were saying, "Oh no, everything's great," and the man in charge of the house had a whole not to pick out and point fingers, but had a whole cupboard full of supplements. And I don't usually pay attention to people's habits and their choices, because I'm Buddhist. I just leave people alone. I have Gandhi on my arms. I'm just a person who wants to go to medical school. But he was very, very manly, and also very hormonally messed up. Had this garage with all his stuff, and it was basically his house, but he had rented this house, I think, for a while with another person who had worked with kids, strangely enough, because it's a little scary thinking back, but it is what it is. And so people would come stay there, and then eventually move out. A lot of people got married. The person I rented the room from was getting married. The person in charge, his friend who he had kind of started the place with, was getting married, so he moved out. But the problem had to do with the drug dealing in the alleyway. I saw kids going to school and stuff, and I saw drug dealers, because I play the Native American flute I have out on the back porch. It was a decent house. The next door neighbor was a retired United States Army serviceman, and talked to him and had fun, because he was moving to Yuma, Arizona. It's like, oh my God, Yuma, Arizona. It's from Arizona. But there was this blackberry bush in the backyard, and it was on the other side of the fence, so I think technically they didn't need to do anything about it, but it was so overgrown that I would go out and play the flute sometimes and not only see drug dealers, but I would see drug addicts, and had to watch in a Christian house with all these men and, all of their, manliness, because they were brutal, but didn't care what I said. And I said to them, hey, there's people doing drugs out there. And the worst was when I saw a man having sex. And kind of hurt my feelings, because I really wanted to be a part of the Christian church, and I thought it was a good place, but the masculinity and the femininity and how the almost tribal-like conditions happen, like when I just had to touch the screen because the battery sign came on, are so fast and so precise, and get to be so standard. I get mixed up, and my thinking just goes, ooh. But then, like I've been talking about with attention and awareness, and the top, you go back down, catch the breath, if it's a bad memory like I just had, and go back up and get awareness and attention, If you're not okay with seeing yourself in a reflection or a mirror or a video screen, right back there behind it, you go straight back over the head, or you go to the sides, or whatever's, your best choice. But then do what you need to get back to what you were doing. And what I was doing was turning off the power, so I got to get the power real quick. So while I'm doing this, I was in the backyard and had finally figured out the blackberry bush, had the landlord I had to check the power. Ooh. Had the landlord help out with the blackberry bush, got it removed, said, hey, I'll keep it trimmed and stuff, so hopefully it'll reduce, because they were hiding behind it in the alleyway. And I'd see kids walk by, and man, it was just like, geez, that is not a good choice or a safe practice to let that kind of stuff happen in your back alleyway. It was so close to the backyard that it just freaked me out visually. And so it I think helped a little bit, because the drug addicts were less visible. I didn't see really any drug addicts, but the drug dealers I recognize, because I'd see them over on Aurora sometimes when I go to the bus to go get groceries, or there's a movie theater, I go see a movie once in a while, there's a Starbucks, I go there. I'd get out and walk, because I was still recovering from cancer. It was I think 3 or 4 years after I had my cancer treatment. And one day the drug dealer was walking by, and there was some sort of interaction between us, and I said, you need to leave us alone, and there was some sort of not a situation, I wasn't starting a fight, I was just saying, like the non-duality stuff, like, just, do what you do, but we live here, and the neighbor, the army veteran was out in his yard, so he saw me and made eye contact and was around. So I wasn't totally alone, but the roommate sat in the house and listened. I went back in and got scolded. Why did you say something, they said. And from there, it just got worse. And I'll save the rest for the next part.